I just read something I wrote in my journal 2 years ago in 2024, and it's about how I used to play music in chapel at school, which was oftentimes kind of difficult because, yes, it was a Christian school, but people didn't really want to hear it. And oftentimes it would be really awkward. They'd kind of be staring at me very awkwardly, and it kind of looked like they wished I was not there and would just kind of stop and just stop. And, so it wasn't the greatest experience. It did get better, however, but it wasn't great for a long time, most of the time that I did it. And, as hard as it was some days, every time I was finished, I always felt like I was following God's plan, and not because I was doing music, but because I was, sharing the gospel and spreading his word, which is what we're all called to do. And so, it always did feel good in the end because I knew I was following what the Lord commands us. And so, that all I'm doing is, getting up and playing for an audience that doesn't really want me and doesn't really want to hear me. But, God will do the rest. And I realized that, in that moment, that they need God's grace just as much as I do. And if I can tell them that, and if just a little bit of that can seep in, then I've done enough. I've done my part, and that the Lord will work through the rest. But what's kind of crazy to me is at the end of the journal I wrote, and just imagine playing for an audience that does want me compared to this not so great experience I've had. Maybe it's training for what's to come or something. And, I think that is kind of true because, oftentimes, we want to play for, and we do tend to play for people that, want to at least hear music or something like that. And so, it's definitely forming, that's for sure. But just think of the contrast. And it's just crazy to me that I was imagining and wishing and hoping for what I have right now. I've gotten to play for so many people that want to hear Christian music, that want to hear my music and just hear me and my story, and especially recently. And it's just crazy. And this is such just a testimony to God's faithfulness, and how, 2 years ago I was imagining, imagine playing for people that really want to actually hear this. And I've gotten to do that so many times, and the Lord has just provided so many amazing opportunities. So I just think that's pretty crazy. I wanted to share that. I think it's just such a great testimony to his faithfulness, and how he's with us in all those seasons and in between moments, and he will carry us through. And even if I didn't get to continue to play for people and do that, I have seen him work in my life, and I've seen him bring the things that I was hoping for, and getting to live in moments that I was hoping the future would hold. And he has a greater plan, and he has a bigger plan in store for us with all of the things that happen in our life. So I hope maybe that was encouraging to you in some way, that this would remind you that he's not done with you, that there's more in the future. He has opportunities, he has plans for you, and they're always good and to prosper you and bring about his glory. So, yeah.